So just a bit about when to apply. So say the 2025 program, which obviously seems like a long time away. The 2024 program applications, which was for this year coming, they were open since last June and they're closing this year. So that was anyone who finished up around summer semester this year. So you guys wouldn't be eligible for it anyway. The 2025 program, those applications open in June of this year. Technically it is for the 2025 program intakes, but what we found is that there is actually some available intakes later in the year. So those of you who are not sure if you're all finished at the end of the year, but if some of you are finished mid-year and possibly have your registration earlier, that is a possibility for you. So what happens if you visited that page currently, you'll see a lot of similar information that you will see when the application opens in June. So definitely recommend you go and have a read over to kind of get orientated with what's expected. And like I said, the 2025 program will open in June. So first things to do is when it opens up is to check that eligibility. So key things, it sounds really simple, but check that you're eligible, check that you're finishing up when you need to be finished, that you're meeting when you're going to be registered. And we've made a lot of changes last year. So a key thing that changed is that our visa holders are now eligible to apply. Previous years you had to hold permanent residency, but we've made a lot of changes now, recognising that a large component of our workforce are changing from student visas into those 485 visas, and we've made allowances for that as well. So I suppose when to apply is a big thing as well, because a big change we made last year is instead of having the applications only open for maybe 3 weeks and you're rushing to get everything in, what we want to see is you applying when you're ready to apply. So for most people then, it's that final semester of your studies when you've got everything ready to go, your final placements are done, we can see where you're up to in your studies and you're ready to go. So they're the key things. All the information that you need is on that web page. So there's no handbook or anything anymore. It's a one-stop shop on that web page. I've got postcards that provide you with links to everything. It talks about eligibility, it talks about where the program's available, all of those things. What do you need to be thinking about now? I know you're doing sim block, you're doing exams, you're doing everything. So it's important to kind of get thinking early about what you need to be doing in preparation for when it opens. So again, it sounds really simple, but we're on the tail end of these applications is read the website and then read it again. All the information you need is there. Ensure you have all your documents. So sometimes you're kind of rushing to get those applications in. That will hold up your application if it's not in full. If you're missing one key component, if you don't have that second clinical patient report, your application won't progress. So ensure you have everything that we've asked for. Your cover letter is where we say a bit more about who you are and what you want. So it's just a one-pager, what you're interested in, what clinical areas you might have done placement in, you'd be keen to maybe continue in, or you've got an interest in anyway. So a bit more about who you are. Referees, I will really, really highlight this one because, like I said, we've had applications open from the last one since June. This is what holds things up. Making sure your referees know that they're going to be contacted, you have listed them as a referee. It really, really holds things up. If you put down a referee who doesn't know that you have asked them to be a referee, they can't remember. They've seen hundreds and hundreds of students come through. They can't remember who you are and when you've done your placement, and they have to go and hunt back. Really good practice. Send them a quick email, let them know you've got their names out, and just say, remember, I did placements between these dates. It helps them help you, and they might give you that little extra mark as well, which always helps. And your clinical placement reports, we would like to say 2 final year reports, but if it's a final year and a second year, that's fine if that's what you have when you're applying. But again, that's all on the website, but these are the key critical elements of your application that it's good to start kind of in preparation, thinking of what you need now to be gathering those things up. And a little bit about, I suppose, what you can be doing now and post your application. So have we got any current RUSONs or RUSOMs in the room? Perfect. Does everyone know what a RUSON and a RUSOM is? It's a registered undergraduate student of nursing or midwifery. So we have people in second or third year who've completed placements who are actually employed in NT Health. It's been growing and growing. feedback from those RUSOMs, and I don't know if any of you can speak to that, it's been really, really positive. The wards have really loved having them. They were embedded in the service. When they get into the graduate program, they feel like they know a lot more. It's not just jumping off a cliff moment. Another key thing about this role is we made huge changes this year, and it'll be even more evident when the applications open this year. These people are taking that first step in becoming NT Health employees, so we want to support them as best we can. So as a RUSON or a RUSOM, that pathway to the grad program will be even easier. So you'll still apply, but we will be doing our best. You're a priority to then streamline you into the program as quickly as we can as soon as you are registration, so you won't have to have that wait. If the first program's full, you're our first priority in terms of getting them into the next program. So if any of you still have a good few months to go in your studies, if you're only early in your third year, highly encourage you to apply to a casual position, pick up a few shifts, really embed you getting money when you're studying, which I know is always a good thing, and you're streamlining yourself into that grad program as well. And again, all the information is on our website as well. And then post-grad program, a career with NT Health, it just opens you up to so many things. Like I said, you've got all of those fabulous hospitals that offer so many different things. And then there's all these employed model programs. So once you've been employed for maybe a year or two, and you really want to embed yourself in a speciality, we've got if you're doing your nursing, we support you to do your midwifery as well. There's neonatal, intensive care, emergency, and that employed model, which means you're working, studying, and you're being supported financially to do some of your studies as well. And that's all available to you as an NT Health employee. And being an NT Health employee, it just Sesssion goes tracks into for all those different support things, as well as all career progression, so many different opportunities that you can try out different things. And being the big health service in the NT, there's just so much available to you. I think that's mostly it for me. Bonnie, did you have anything else you wanted to add about the program itself?
I'll add something about my own personal experience because I completed my Bachelor of Nursing through CDU, did all my sim labs in that room, and I graduated in 2015, and I took most of the steps in this pathway. So I went through my graduate program, I was in a transition to emergency specialty, and then they helped pay for my postgraduate studies as well. So living proof that it actually happens and it does work.
And now she's educating all the graduates who come in, and he support the education team at Royal Darwin, which is the same but all the different hospitals, and it's just fantastic. And that's the other thing I'll add as well. With you might have something like ED and RDH is where you want to be. If you don't get that, that's for your grad program. Don't look at it maybe as a step backwards. Sometimes trying out, if you do get into the grad program, but maybe don't get the rotation that you want or the area that you want, we hear time and time again that it's actually a really big positive for people. They get to try something different, maybe an area that they didn't even realize that they were interested in, and it leads them down a very different path than they were. Or also, if it is eyes and prize, you want a specific area and you don't get it, you're also embedded in the service. We will assist you to get where you want to be. So that grad program, it is a program, it's that first step to try something out and learn the service. And so if you don't get exactly that first step where you want straight up, it is still a big positive, and it's just still a step in the door. So it's still getting to where you want to be. Anything else anyone said? Do you want to leave the questions to the end, Tasvia? Yeah? Okay. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, questions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Regarding reference, do we need to put reference of our clinical educator where we did our placement, or any of the RNs, or?
So what we do, we have it on the website as well. So referees that we want to see, your clinical facilitators, your clinical educators when you've done placement is key. If you are a RUSON or a RUSOM, one of those as your referees will be great as well. So we really want someone who's seen you in action in your studying your RN, so in that placement. So we don't really want any other references from, say, outside employment or anything like that. We want someone who's overseeing you in that clinical capacity.
If you do your grad year at a 0.8 or 0.6 or something, does that mean then that your grad year lasts for a bit longer, or it just is for a 12-month period?
No, so we will support it either 0.8 or full-time. It does need to be negotiated because the program is initially offered at full-time. So if you do want to work 0.8 for, you need to let us know basically ASAP, because we'll need to negotiate that through rotations.
But it is a 12-month program, so it can't be done 0.6 and drawn out. It is a 12-month contract, so 0.8, negotiable. Okay, go for it.
How many people do you take in? Sorry, I'm a student midwife, so for me, I'm just asking for my personal circumstances. How many do you take in for each intake?
So that varies. And what we have done this year is we have grown those numbers at every intake, and that's across each service. So Alice Springs, ourselves, Catherine, and it's going to increase even more. We really, really want to be growing our own. We want to grow our own workforce. So those intakes, not a set number, because we're always looking at the landscape, looking at what we can take, looking at how many applicants we have, because we really want to support our own into the service as best we can. So it's a moving feast. Yeah.
So that's only July intake, July intake?
No, so again, this is changing. So historically, Royal Darwin does 4 intakes each year: January, April, August, October. Alice Springs does every 2 months. Catherine, 2 intakes a year, and Tennant Creek and Gove. And this is currently, this is for always changing. So 2025 might look a little bit different. They do rotations, and they'll do blocks that you.
So one of our grads will do 6 months with us and then 6 months in Gove, and Alice Springs will do one grad 6 months there, 6 months in Tennant Creek.
So you don't apply for intakes, you apply for the program, and that's a really key thing to know. So you're applying for the program, especially now because we keep the applications open ongoing. So when it opens in June, you've got that big influx of everyone applying, but we still are getting applicants this week from people who are applying, who are just ready to apply now. That's fine. But again, those earlier intakes are now full, and that's okay. So we're seeing where we can fit them in.
So if you apply in June, you might not get a position until like March, or
Quite possibly, and it really depends. Again, like I said, this is it's constantly changing because we're constantly trying to ensure that we get people through when they're ready to work, because we know people. But again, we have set programs. So if we get that influx in June and there's hundreds of applicants, is what happens. We're trying our best when you're ready that we get them in, but it is very likely sometimes that those initial intakes fill up quicker. But that's when I say, if it is 80 in Darwin that you want in January, because that's when you're ready to go, when you don't get it, again, depending on circumstances, if you're able to move and travel, but there's those intakes in, say, Alice that could be available, or Catherine. There's accommodations, fantastic support in those places. So if you are able to move, if you don't have family ties and you're ready to go, thinking about those other areas and those other regions is definitely something that you should be thinking about. There's fantastic support in those places. And again, as Simon said in that video, even more so in the regions, you get even more exposure to different things as well.
So I'll add on to that. Once you are given an offer for the grad program, you'll receive an email from our team which gives you a preference form to fill out. And on that preference form, you can indicate which intakes you prefer, because some people I've finished my studies, I'm going for a holiday for a month, and they would prefer to start later, some would prefer to start earlier. That form also allows you to indicate if you're interested in specialty pathways, and you can add any extra information onto that form that you would like to. I think they've now added a box for if an earlier intake does become available, would you be interested? So all that would be on that form, which we have a database of.
okay. Oh, sorry. I was also wondering, let's say, so I finish in July, and let's say I don't get intake until like January or whichever month. Can I work as an RN during that time or not?
So not in NT Health, no. So there's one entry pathway for if you're a
So if you're a RUSON, you can't work as a RUSON, but if you are a registered nurse, it's less than 6 months experience, is it?
Yeah.
So like a doctor's clinic or something as a nurse,
Okay.
less than 6
And
months.
not within NT.
If
however.
you're, well, you won't get a position as an RN within NT Health
Okay.
without that experience.
Yeah.
Sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt.
yeah, so there's only
Um,
one entry pathway for newly graduated nurses and midwives, and that is a graduate program.
Okay, so I could get a job in like an aged care facility, for
Yes.
example.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you are a RUSON, I think if you will know that once you become registered as a nurse or midwife, you can no longer work in that RUSON role. And that's why we've brought in this pathway to help those people so that you're not unable to work for months. Because some people are trying to get their registration early but don't quite make it, and then suddenly they're registered without that RUSON job. So that's why we've brought that pathway in. Sorry, there was someone over here next.
Yes, so I'm currently a RUSON, and then I'm currently also sponsored by Defence for my study as a nurse. So I'm finishing in July, early July. Does that mean I can apply in my second last placement to get into like an August intake? Because
So,
they don't want that gap between July and October intake.
so you can only apply for the program. We will do our best
Okay.
to support everyone coming through.
Yeah.
However, it is a program.
Yeah.
We, especially for those initial ones, we have hundreds of applicants. We'll do our best to identify those people who are registered, who are RUSONs, who need to be supported as quickly. But it is, you are applying to a program, and so there's no.
It's actually the 2025
Yes.
program.
So I can't apply this year.
What I would recommend is I'll give you a link to our grad program. Have a look at that eligibility, because if you're not finished now, so no, you wouldn't be. Yeah. So you apply to and that's very clear. We even just extended it to support those people finishing in summer semester, because it actually should have been December. So we just extended it slightly to support those in summer semester, but this is in 2025. But again, noting on it, if you can, let us know. But again, there's no guarantees with it yet.
There's also a little bit of work going on with our team to identify who is currently a RUSON. So you will be likely getting an email from us shortly so that you can tell us when you're expected to finish, and we can take that into consideration. And you might have said already, but they're building that into the application for next year, so you can very clearly identify that you are a RUSON when you do your application, which will save me a lot of work.
Yes, and with that, so we will be pulling that data straight away. Like I said, the RUSONs there are NT Health staff, so we really want to support you best we can. So.
My question was, Michelle, is there a turnaround period for applicants to be receiving an answer on the application?
So yes and no. So we do our best. That first intake, the first influx of applicants, that's probably where it takes a couple of months because it's hundreds. And we do our best to get that turned around in, probably 2 months realistically with all of them coming through. The RUSONs, we will be doing work to identify them quicker and get them turned around as quickly as possible. But really, now, if someone applies now and they've got, like I said, the referees know, they've got everything, there is no reason we're not turning them around in really 4 weeks. The thing is, if you put in an application that is missing that, and it's not a big application, it's you identify 2 referees, 2 clinical placement reports, your resume, your academic transcript.
And there have to be summative
Yes.
clinical placement reports, not your interim, because lots of people will send through their interim and then you've got to follow them up for their summative. And then that takes time for them to get them in, and it just is a snowball effect. So Michelle's right.
You have people that could be sitting there for 2-3 months, but it is on them not submitting it. We will follow up. If you're missing something, we will be letting you know you haven't submitted this, your referee is not getting back to us. But all of those things add weeks onto your application. So I can't overstate the importance of putting in an application that is full and complete and notifying your appropriate referees that they will be contacted, because that will speed up everything. Yeah, but no time frame, but we do our best to get it turned around as quickly as possible. Yeah.
I know it's not exactly our kettle of fish, but we should briefly speak to applying to APRA.
You do want to do?
Yeah, so one of the things that slowed a few people down in the last year or so is that they hadn't had their APRA applications in early enough. When you are coming towards the end of your degree, if you have everything in with APRA and you're thinking it might be a tight turnaround, if everything's there and you're just waiting on that grade release, it's going to be quicker for you to get registered if you put everything in. And APRA can look at all those documents and then your grades can be added on at the end once they've got that official notification that you finished your degree. So if you're coming towards the end, start your applications with APRA because they can take quite a while when there's big groups coming through, and that's often the January or the November to January and then that mid-year as well.
When can you start applying for your registration?
I'm not going to say definitively when because I definitely don't represent APRA. Read through the website and it will give you that information. There are some pretty clear directions on there.
I just, when I'm thinking of it, I can't overstate that comment. Go to the source of truth. If it's about APRA, go to APRA. If it's about the grad program, come to us. Read our website. We get so many calls every day. My friend said this, I've heard this. That's fine, talk to each other, but go to the source of truth because it also affects your time frames. If you're thinking, well, that my friend did this, that's not the source of truth.
And your mental health as well. We've
Yes.
had some very distressed people who were told by a friend that they would not be eligible when that was wildly untrue. So
We love your
please-
phone calls, we love your emails. Please come to us first. Yeah, happy to take all calls.
Will we get offered a position before, like on the condition that we will get our registration at the end, like we will still get that
Yes.
offer? And then
Absolutely.
You can
able to
apply
start?
before you're registered,
Yes.
but you won't be able to commence if you do not have your registration.
It just
Yeah.
starts on the uptake after your registration.
As long as you meet the requirements to apply, absolutely. Yeah. And same with anyone who's a visa holder. It's not so much now, again, we've kind of learned how we went with these visas, but you can definitely still apply if you're on your student visa. As noting that, yes, you can be able to commence when you're able. We have a visa that's full-time employment.
Also, if you finish on the visa, if you're on your student visa, if you've finished, you've got your completion letter. If you give us your completion letter, then we can offer you an actual place.
Yeah. So we realised that you can work full-time once you've completed your, and not the 20 hours.
And something to add on to that, just because we're talking about visas, if you've got IELTS you need to do, book yourself in early, just read through the conditions on the APRA website and check, but get into it early because you don't want that to be the one thing hanging over your head either.
There's a question online. Can you repeat about the referee requirements?
Yes. So the referee requirements, again, it's very, very clear on the website, so please read the website and it tells you clearly who is an appropriate referee. And there are people like your clinical educators, if you're a RUSON or a RUSOM, that clinical nurse manager in your ward, clinical facilitators, not your buddy on the ward, not your, if it's you work in a different job, that referee, it's someone who has seen you working in that clinical capacity, who has supervised you or educated you in that capacity. Yeah.
So I read on the website that if you get into a specialty placement, you can do a 12 months in there.
Mhm.
If you apply for the EN to RN pathway, are you still eligible to do one of those specialty
I think you are, but that's a
placements?
land
Sorry,
question,
I was
sorry.
clarifying something over here. I was not listening to you at all.
For the 12-month clinical specialty placements, if you're doing the EN to RN transition, are you eligible then to do those 12 months?
Yes, you are.
At 12 months, or would it still be the 6 months?
So the grad program itself, we do have specialty streams and some of those streams have been only offered at 12-month
Yeah.
length. We have actually brought in some positions now that are 6 months maybe on a medical ward, then 6 months NED, aiming to then move on to that internal specialty training. So those are options. ENs to RNs have the option of electing to either do the 6-month fast track, which we haven't really talked about yet. There is a 6-month fast track.
Yeah.
And then you also have the option, if you want to, of identifying that, no, I really want to do a full 12-month program. I really know I want to go to ED. So you can absolutely say that in your application. And we do the best we can to honour people's preferences with the understanding that this entire room might want to go to ED and we can't put all of you in there. So those options are there for you.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you've got specialty things like that, like EN to RN, add that into your application, because then it helps us flag them, and then we can have conversations around what things look like, whether you're doing the 6-month or the 12-month, so on and so forth. Something else that I don't think has been completely formalised, but that we've started trialling, is transitions between our program and Central Australia. So we've had a few grads come from up here and then go down and try out Alice Springs and do some rotations down there, which has opened up specialty pathways for them, and vice versa. We've had some from Alice come up here, and same with Catherine.
Yeah. And we're going to do a lot more of that regional, try to open up where the regions can take and make that much more clear, and have had great feedback from anyone going who was able to understand sometimes family commitments and skew your options, but
we've got one recently that did 6 months with us, 6 months in Alice, and is now on the transition to remote program.
Yeah.
So it's a nice pathway, particularly if you are looking at going into those remote workforce areas.
And just with the EN to RN, just so you know, if you did do that 12 months instead of 6 months, in terms of salary, it won't change anything at all for you.
Yeah, I was more thinking like I'd be happy to finish in 12 months, in 6 months, but if I was able to do a specialty, I would 100% do it for 12 months to get that experience.
And you can note that in your cover letter as well,
Okay.
that that's something available. Yeah.
The other thing is, even if you only do 6 months and you happen to get into that right specialty for 6 months, there's no reason that they might not continue on in that training after completion of the program.
Yeah.
Anything else?
So talking about transition, I just heard it's about hearing.
I love these ones.
We're in the
I
street.
just heard that after we are working in aged care, so for 6 months, like we just need to do our grad program just for 6 months, or
No.
it's not that.
So EN, if you've been an enrolled nurse or registered as an enrolled nurse and working, and you then go to do your registered nursing, you only need to do a 6-month grad program. But if you are, say, working in aged care as a care provider but not as a nurse, you would need to do the full 12.
And if you are working in aged care as a provider, please check the limits on how much experience you can have as an RN on their website, because it's got the limits on there. Because if you go over a certain
6 months.
6 months.
Yeah.
there you go.
You've
Yeah.
worked, yeah.
More than that, and you would no longer be eligible to get into the graduate program because you'll have too much experience.
Yeah. Anything else?
You can work as an EN while you wait for your RN reference.
Yes, but you cannot move into your RN scope if you are employed as an EN. So be very careful. It's a hard line to walk sometimes, because you could just do it, but for your registration's sake, don't. If you're employed as an EN, stick to that scope.
What happens if we apply for APRA though?
You can be dual registered as an EN and RN, and then there's an entire sheet on the APRA site, information sheet on there that coaches you through this exact scenario.
I'll check that out.
Yeah. If you're thinking it, someone else probably is. Come on, more questions?
With the postcards that I provide you, it's got a link to their number and our email address. So if you've got anything else at all, please feel free and always verify what your friends are saying.
We are fact
Yes.
And the rest ones, you will hear from us. If you don't hear from us and you're not sure how to contact us, you can reach out through the Chief Nurse's office and they will get on to us about it.
And it also, sorry.
I have one question, like about the specialty, like for me currently, I don't know which specialty I would prefer to go into. So like, you guys will give some suggestion, or we have to figure out by ourselves?
So there are specialty programs. Yes, we have those streams. We have wards across all of mental health, not all of mental health, but a lot of mental health, primary health care, all throughout the Tower Block at Royal Darwin, all through Palmerston. So there's lots and lots of different placements. We can't stick everyone into specialties, so people will be getting into medical wards, surgical wards. If there's paediatric spots available, we will allocate you to rotations. They are usually, where possible, in different specialties. So during your grad year, if you're not in a specialty 12-month program, then you'll get the opportunity to try 2 work areas. You don't have to finish a program and say, okay, I've done a medical ward, I've done a surgical ward, I finished in a surgical ward, so I better stay here. You can get to the end of your program and go, do you know, I actually want to go try peds. So I'm going to see if I can go up to peds and do a bit of peds training there. There's nothing nailing you into that spot forever. And the beginning of your career is actually quite a good time to go and try a few different work areas, especially in the current job market.
Yes.
There's lots of opportunities.
And that's the joy of going into a public health system, because there's everything. And, you know, with a smaller territory that we are, even if you're in a medical ward, you're seeing a lot of different things. Surgical ward, everything is fast. There's no pigeonholing in the NT. There's no one-stop shop. You get to see and experience a lot, no matter what area that you're in. I'd also just encourage you, if any of you are on Facebook, when you're all too young to be on Facebook anymore, but we do have a what is it called? A page, yes. I'm not
Too
young
young to
anymore.
be on Facebook, too old to be on Facebook.
Really are.
On the interwebs.
We've got a private Facebook page. It's NT Health Nursing Midwifery, and we don't post a lot. I mean, one thing a day, but it's to keep up to date with those grad open dates. You can see what's going on. Like our scholarships have just come out, our awards, just different things. Like, so you can kind of keep up to date with what's going on and when, and especially when you're keeping an eye out for those grad programs. And also with the Rousons, depending on how long you've worked as a Rouson, we've made changes to our scholarship program as well this year. So if you're a current Rouson who's been working for at least 6 months, you can actually access the scholarships to support paying for some of your units this year, which is very different. It's usually been very post-grad orientated. It's been you have to be employed for 2 years. So if you're a Rouson, even if, I think, depending if you're currently employed as an EN to RN, those scholarships could be available to you. So please jump on, same website link that I'll send you through or on the postcards. Check if you're eligible, if you're currently working for NT Health. You could get some support. And that's the other thing with NT Health, there's all these different supports that are available to you as well. So key ones. Okay, so for my old self, I'll stop talking.
Alright, we're gonna have some afternoon tea now, so if there are any, these guys are hanging around for a little bit, so if you've got some questions that you want to ask, please be brave and go up and ask them. So join me in thanking. So feel free to help yourself to some afternoon tea, and make sure if you've got any more questions that you get them answered while the team is here.